Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat about what's happened in Spain over the last week or so while I take the dog for a walk. Bit of a cooler day today. The sun is shining, not a lot of clouds in the sky, but the weather definitely cooler than it has been. But it is 8:45 a.m. Saturday morning, around 15 degrees Celsius. I think we're going to get up to around 32 degrees Celsius today, so not a bad day, but still a little bit hot in my opinion. Now we'll check out the activity here on the Valencia Highway. People going into Madrid that way and people heading towards Valencia that way, whether it be Valencia, Murcia, Alicante, Cuenca even. People heading off for the weekend, enjoying the final days of summer, because as we know, on the 21st, the 21st or the 20th, I think, we officially go into autumn here in Spain, and people taking advantage, of course, of this fantastic weather. As you can see here, blue skies, a few clouds, and heading down to the coast to experience that nice Mediterranean climate. And I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again now, that in my opinion, September is probably the best month of the year to take a holiday here in Spain. The weather's still good, as we can see. You might get a couple of rainy days, but in general the weather's pretty good. The temperatures cool down, which is important. You can sleep at night, and of course the price of hotels, the price of bars and restaurants come down, of course, because the demand is not the same as it is in July and August. So September, in my opinion, the best month to visit this country. A couple of people in the comment section said, what about spring? Spring's the best time to visit Spain because there's lots of activity. But for me, spring is not a good time of the year because of hay fever and other problems with allergies. And for people that suffer hay fever, Spain, in my opinion, can be a little bit difficult because the hay fever season here normally takes down a lot of victims with that terrible problem, which is hay fever. I suffer from it, and I don't enjoy spring as much as I do autumn. And that's the reason why I think that September is the best time of the year, just before autumn hits, to visit Spain, as I said a minute ago. Now, I've been a bit quiet this week when it comes to putting videos out. I haven't been putting videos out at my normal frequency, and the reason for that is that September is a very busy month for me, getting back into the routine, getting my son back into school, having to pick him up every day from school, organising uniforms, organising lunches, and also organising my teaching for the next 9 or 10 months. September's a month where a lot of people decide to look for English classes, so it's a busy time for me. And I've also had an extra course that I've been doing 4 hours a day, 2 days a week, which is taking up a lot of my time, hence the lack of videos. And another thing that's been difficult this month has been the adaptation process from summer holidays into the work routine again. Hasn't been easy, I'm not going to lie, but I'm slowly trying to get on top of my work routine again, especially when it comes to the English classes side of the routine. But I don't mind being busy every now and again. You have to make hay while the sun shines in this country. Take advantage of the busy periods, and as I said, September a busy period for me, and hopefully I can set myself up for work for the next 9 or 10 months, which is the school year here, because the summer months can be pretty quiet from a teaching point of view, and I'm sure that every English teacher out there in Spain knows exactly what I'm talking about. So as I said, make hay while the sun shines. And to be honest, I haven't been finding the news overly exciting recently. The energy crisis, blah blah blah, the Queen's death, blah blah blah, no disrespect. The government talking about caps on food prices here in Spain, blah blah blah. So a lot of the news recently, in my opinion, is pretty much blah blah blah, and I find it pretty hard to get motivated with such boring news, but hey, that's just me. But one thing that did catch my attention today, and it is the old chestnut that is COVID, and Spain announced the other day that COVID restrictions for non-European people coming into Spain are going to be in place until the 15th of November. That's right, the 15th of November. I can't believe it, but the Spanish government thinks that that is the best thing to do, in their opinion. And it's strange because inside the European Union there aren't any restrictions. You can come from France to Spain, Germany to Spain with no restrictions, but outside the European Union you have restrictions in place. I can't work it out, and a lot of epidemiologists also can't work it out. The amount of times recently that I've seen a person on the television, an expert on viral infections, say that these rules and regulations are no longer necessary because as soon as you get here, you're mixing with the general population, and as we know, COVID is still around, but it's being dealt with in a different way nowadays. The restrictions here now for the general population hardly exist. Only when you take public transport do you have to wear a mask, and they're even talking about scrapping those rules as well. And a lot of experts, as I said, the same people that we listened to during the pandemic to tell us that we needed to wear a mask, are now saying that it is a good idea to get rid of these last remaining restrictions, for example, wearing masks. So to be honest, as I said, I can't work it out, but hey, it's not the first time that I haven't been able to work out what's going on when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, or as the head of the World Health Organization said the other day, almost the end of the COVID-19 pandemic in his opinion. Now, another thing that caught my attention this week was a person or a group of people that were arrested down there on the Costa del Sol in Malaga, or the Costa del Crime as it has been known in the past. Again, living up to its reputation as a crime hub, and they arrested this person or people down there who were apparently some of the world's biggest money launderers, having laundered around 200 million euros, I think I read in the press. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a couple from Scotland, or a guy from Scotland at least. I only saw the headlines and read briefly the article, but I think that was the case. And again, I'll ask the question, why is the Costa del Sol such a popular place for criminals to hide out? Do they just blend in down there with the big expat or foreign community? Is that the reason? Do people not recognize them when they go to the supermarket? Do they live indoors all the time? Why do they choose Spain? As we've seen over the last year or so, there have been various arrests of this type of fugitives who hide out in Spain. I think the British police launched a campaign earlier this year looking for the 10 or 12 most wanted fugitives from the UK, and again, one is found down there on the Costa del Sol. So I don't know what it is. Why is Spain so popular when it comes to this? Why do people think that they can hide out in plain sight in places like Malaga? Do the Spanish police not know what's going on? That's the question. Are the rules and regulations different here? Is the prison system different? Is it more difficult to extradite people from Spain? I don't know. Those are the questions that I ask myself, because I don't see people getting arrested in other countries like they do here in Spain. But then again, I could be wrong, and these arrests take place all over the world. If that is the case, please let me know in the comment section below. Now, in the background, you can see people playing a sport that has become one of my favorite sports here in Spain, paddle. It's like a mini version of tennis. The rules are fairly similar. There's a few different rules, but in general, similar to tennis. You serve underarm, and you can also play the ball off the back of the court, because they have like a glass panel or a hard panel that the ball can come off, and you can return it that way. But I played the other day with my son, who's 12. I'm in my 50s, my son's 12, and I played with two of his friends, and I was surprised by just how inclusive this sport is, because you can play against kids that are 12 that have a decent level playing this sport, and I enjoyed it. So paddle, one of my favorite sports now in Spain. Good way to get out and about, spend a weekend, a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning playing with friends. You need 4 people to play, I think, or at least you play better with 4. Unlike tennis, you can play with 2, but you don't have the element where you're running around for lost balls like you are when you play tennis, because as we can see, the court size is a lot smaller. So definitely a pro. And if you haven't played paddle and you've seen the courts around here in Spain, and you've got a few friends that like to play tennis and you want to change, I recommend paddle. And the final thing I'm going to talk about today is the economy, and I do this with 2 businesses behind me that recently closed down because, no doubt, of the economy here in Spain, restaurants in particular, that couldn't survive the pandemic, couldn't find enough business to carry on, probably got too heavily into debt during the pandemic, and of course the customers didn't come back. And what I'm noticing now around this part of Madrid at least, especially when it comes to consumption. Shopping centres and restaurants, they are very empty at the moment. Went to a shopping centre yesterday for lunch, and some of the places that you would see normally full of people at this time of the year on a Friday afternoon, empty, and people not spending money. And basically that's what we're being told at the moment, just how bad the economy is going to be. The economic newspapers here in Spain, the economic press warning about a looming recession. The government is more optimistic, saying that that won't necessarily be the case. But of course the press, as I said, pointing that out because the economy is not going too well. And we saw how last year Spain's economy didn't recover to pre-pandemic levels, didn't do it this year. So we're still below pre-pandemic levels. I think the only country in the European Union that is still below pre-pandemic levels. So things not looking good for Spain over the next 6 to 8 months, or maybe even longer, depending on how long the high inflation and recession last, of course. And the government here, as we know, scrambling to find solutions to the problem, scrambling to find ways to keep people happy, to keep people's energy bills down, to keep people's supermarket trolleys down, the price of those supermarket trolleys down. The government scrambling at the moment, and I'm sure different governments around the world are also scrambling because we are heading into uncertain times when it comes from an economic point of view. But again, the economy, blah, 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 blah. So on that positive note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego. And I'll try to put more video content out over the next few weeks. Hopefully I'll have everything under control by October, and I can get back to posting videos on a more regular basis. Let's hope so. Hasta luego.